I'm Emily Campbell, I'm Director of Design here at the RSA, and I'm going to talk to Anna Minton about her new book, Ground Control, Fear and Happiness in the 21st Century City. Anna, one of the things that you talk about is the failure of social capital to increase during the time of economic boom. What about now? We're in a time of economic bust. Do you see any sign that that's going to change, that social capital might increase?
Well, I sort of raised 2 points there. First of all, one of my issues is that I'm not entirely sure what social capital is. It seems to have become this sort of catch-all buzzword, much favoured by policymakers and politicians. And actually, what does it in fact mean? You know, it means healthy, successful places which work well. Why can't we just simply talk about that? I mean, it all relates to Robert Putnam's debate on social capital, which I won't get into right now. But I think we just need to be, a little bit more straightforward and clear in our terms. In terms of how the financial crisis is likely to affect communities, I think actually we've seen some quite counterintuitive results. What we've seen is sort of local shops are sort of collapsing, and sort of businesses are just sort of springing up kind of organically in empty premises. I mean, that's hardly going to sort of solve the problem or sort of ease the pain. But actually, we have seen some quite encouraging signs about the way people are communicating with each other in places. I mean, just where I live in Brixton, the Brixton Pound has just been introduced, and that's a sort of very popular initiative. I mean,
and it registers with people at a time like this.
It does.
Maybe it takes root a little bit more.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about financial collapse. We could see sort of unrest. I don't think we've even begun to see any sign of that. So I think often the effects are counterintuitive.
I mean, back to the social capital question, I suppose what we're after is a kind of integration of rich and poor somehow, a social certainly that's, I suppose, I think what we mean in Europe.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the solutions to the kind of the opposite situation of community polarisation that you've seen because of these trade-offs between...
Well, I mean, what I've been talking about very much is the effect of the built environment on the way we live our lives and how that affects us emotionally and psychologically. I mean, really what the book is about is how the sort of economic landscape plays out on the physical city. And I mean, it's been well documented, sort of, astronomical gap between extreme wealth and poverty, and how more equal societies are simply healthier and happier societies. I would hope that, we've got a bit of pause to consider and sort of, tame some of the excesses of, the extreme sort of runaway capitalism of the last decade, and that should be reflected in our environment as well.
Can I ask one final question about design? It's my field specifically. I'd like to ask about what role you think architects have in reclaiming public space. Now, in this debate, Ricky Burdett mentioned the elephant in the room, which is the enormously complex planning process. We talked about how the language is off-putting to everybody. But in what sense can architects work for the citizen as well, for their paymaster, for the developers?
Well, that's the impossibly difficult thing, because finally architects have to work to the client's brief. So it's quite difficult to hope that architects will lead this discussion. You'd be a very brave architect to say, I will only take projects which, fit within my sort of common good type of vision for the city. But I think all we can do is sort of raise awareness of some of the counterintuitive effects of security, certainly, and some of the problems with this secured by design approach, which I think has really negative connotations for the places people live in. I mean, schools sort of surrounded by 20-foot high fortified fences and CCT absolutely everywhere. I think you can become aware of the security issue and still sort of, work to a client's brief.
Thank you, Anna. I'm sure there's a line forming outside to buy your new book, so thank you very much.
Thank you.